Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today in today's video we're going to be learning how to make this beautiful gown that is on the screen, and the one you're seeing me showing you on paper is my recreation. So if that's what you want to learn how to make, keep watching this video till the very end. You'll be needing your basic bodice front in full like this, okay, not the half of it, in full, from your shoulder to your whatever you want your gown to stop. So having done this now, the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to be folding this into two from the center because I want to get the V neckline. So from my basic neckline, I removed 1 inch. You can do whatever you want here, but do not let it go so deep. I removed 1 inch, and for the depth, I used 6 inches. So you can decide to use whatever it is that is good for you for a V neckline. And I'll be using my ruler to join these two lines together like so. So I'm using my marker now to join it together because I found out that my pen wasn't doing the job well, so you guys can see it clearly. Then we'll go ahead to use our scissors and cut it out. And of course, this is what it looks like. So I'll go ahead now and open it up. Our V neckline is ready. Okay. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, do what to subscribe. Turn on the bell notification icon so you'll be the very first person to know when I post new videos like this. Now remember, this dress has a waistband. This is the way I do my waistband. I go 1 inch upwards, 1 inch downwards. If I want to use 1.5 inch, then I divide the 1.5 inches into 2 and I take half upwards, half of it downwards. Upwards and downwards, that is between my waistline. Okay, that is how I do my waistband, between the waistline. So here I'm going to be using 1.5 inches, and I went ahead to get half of it upwards, half of it downwards, half of it on top of my waistline, half of it below my waistline. And that is what I'm imputing right now. After imputing it, I'll go ahead and use my marker and join the dotted lines together to form a straight line. So I'm going ahead to join them together now to form a straight line. Do want to share this video on other sewing platforms where they will be needed. Thank you. So now this is my waistband, okay? Now I have my waistband, which is 1.5 inches. So I'll go ahead and make it visible. Remember, that's the waistline. That very one I drew there is the waistline. So there's another design on top of this dress. Okay, so that's what we're going to be drawing in now. Now this is optional. You can decide to do this design whichever way you want. I'm going to be marking 4 inches. Like I said, it's not a standard. You can decide to do yours whichever way you want. Just draw out that design on your pattern. That is what I'm trying to do now. I marked 4 inches on my waistline. You can also decide to mark yours on top of the line where your waistband is going to start. But then I marked mine on top of my waistline. So you can decide to mark yours on top of the line where your waistline is going to start. And from my waistline, I went up by 1 inch to get the very part where I did this. I actually exceeded it about 1.025 inches. So from here now, I'm going to be marking in for the other one, like so. Whatever you're doing, you have to be conscious of your darts. Remember, this is a fitted dress. So whatever you're doing, be conscious of your darts. What I mean by be conscious of your darts is do not let a whole lot of designs go into the darts to avoid closing up darts and you're getting confused. So be conscious of your darts in whatever you're doing. So this is what this looks like right now. Okay, and I'll go ahead and trace the both of them out. So I'm going to have to trace it out. Initially, I did not impute the dart, but then I remembered. I'll go ahead and impute the dart and I'll come back and show you guys. So this is what the trace out looks like. Please always remember to impute your dart in whatever you're tracing out. So So I'm going to be imputing my dart because I actually forgot, and I'm going to impute it straight away. I'm gonna have to impute my dart, as you guys can see. So this is what we're having here right now. And this is the dart, because we're going to be taking off the dart and closing it up so it can align with the main bodice, right? Having done this now, the next thing I'm going to do is to get my waistband out. I'm going to be separating this whole pattern so I can get my waistband. So now I haven't separated it. This is my waistband. And the next thing I'm going to do is to close up the darts on my waistband, because of course we want a fitted dress. So we're going to be closing up the darts. And these darts that you're closing should be done on the paper before you transfer the waistband to your fabric. You're closing the darts on the paper before transferring your waist dart to the fabric. So I'm going to be closing my dart like so right now. I'm gonna have to close it up. I used my tape to hold it, and I've set it aside alongside with the patterns that we traced. Also, I'll go ahead to close up the dart for the patterns that we traced also. Like I said, every dart you're closing should be done on the paper so that when you cut it on the fabric, it comes out as a whole. There'll be no traces of you closing up that or stitching up anything. It's going to be coming out on the fabric as a whole. So do your dart closing on the paper like I'm doing right now. So while closing that of this very part of the design, you'll find out that the heights are no longer regular. There is this irregularity in the height, but do not worry, close the dart, making sure that the part of the waistline is regular. Then the very top part, we are going to throw it on a fresh pattern paper to get the actual design. So now we're going to be working on our upper bodice proper. The only thing you have to do here is to close up your dart. So now remember that on your fabric, on your paper, you're deciding if you're going to be sewing on the waist or on the side. But I will advise you sew up your dart on the side seam, meaning you have to close it on the waist first. You have to close the waist dart, open it at the side seam, then you're going to be sewing up the side seam on your fabric. I hope that's understandable. Or if you like, you can sew up both of them. There's nothing wrong. You can sew up both of them. So I'll set this aside now, and then we'll go ahead to work on the lower bodice. This is where the main work comes in. Okay, this is where the main work comes in. Now you have your lower bodies or your skirt bodies like so. I'm going ahead to attach a fresh pattern paper by the side. So I haven't attached a fresh pattern paper. This is what I'm going to do. From this very tip now, I'll use my tape to measure the length I want. Okay, from that very tip, I'm going to be measuring from this side all the way down to the length that I want. So the length is optional. Okay, I'm using 8.5 inches here, but you can decide to do whatever it is that is going to be nice for you. Now I went outwards by 1.5 inches. So I'm going to be squaring a line like so on the 1.5 inches. I'm going to be connecting this 1.5 inch mark to that very tip. So firstly, I'll also go ahead to join this part together before connecting it like so, to give it that kind of peplum look. Okay, so we're going to be joining this to this part. Do not worry, I'll use my marker to highlight it so you guys can see it clearly. So now we have the very first one, which is the first layer, right? We have the first layer. We are going to be drawing in the second layer, which is the second one, please. We are going to be drawing the second layer. So I marked this very part, 4 inches. Now, whatever you're marking here is the line where that second layer is going to rest. So it's up to you. Wherever you want the second layer to rest, you can mark that. Now I'm squaring the line downwards. After squaring the line downwards, you're going to be taking the measurement. On top of that line you squared downwards, you're going to be taking a measurement. So I'm using 13 inches here, please. I'm using 13 inches. And then I'm going ahead to connect it to this point. Also, I'll use my marker to make this visible so you guys can see it clearly. If you're watching closely, you'll find out that we are getting the shape that is on the dress. So I've done the second layer and we'll head over to do the third layer. Now there's something I did here which please do not do it. The third layer, the side of it is the same thing with the side of the skirt. For this whole extra pattern paper that I added is only for the first paper, for the first layer please, and the second one of course because it joined to the first one. So the third layer please should have the same measurement, or it should come out on the same shape as the side seam, because that is the part where you're going to be sewing onto your skirt. So if it is bigger than the skirt, you have problem stitching it. So please discard whatever I'm doing here. It should be on the side of your basic skirt, not on the additional paper that we did, all right? Not on the additional pattern paper. I really didn't film that part, but please, I hope I'm explaining it. This very third one should come on your actual side skirt. Do not go ahead putting it at the extra pattern paper that we added. No. Why? Because this is the part you're going to be sewing on your skirt so that you don't have any issues sewing it. Let this line now be on the line of your actual skirt pattern. Please. It's going to be on your actual skirt and not on the extra added paper. So having done that, this is all that you have, and we'll go ahead to trace out the whole of this. All right, we'll go ahead to trace the whole of this out on the fresh pattern paper. I'll trace this as 3, 2, then 1. Okay, I'm going to be tracing it. Don't worry, I'll show you all the traced patterns so you guys can see it clearly. I'll go ahead and show you all the traced pattern. Now this is the first traced pattern. As you can see, I included my dart. So please include your dart. This is the first one. This is the second one. And of course, this is going to be the third one, which is the last one also. So did you see how I traced it out? That is also how you should trace out your pattern. And now we'll go ahead to remove the added paper. Please do not forget what I said about the third one. The third one, the side has to be the same with the side of your skirt, not on the added paper. It has to be the same with the side of your skirt because that is where you're going to be sewing onto your skirt. Please. So here now, I'm going ahead to remove the extra paper and we are left with our skirt. Okay. So for the skirt, what you're going to be doing first is to open up your dart and sew it. You're going to be stitching up your dart. Sorry, don't open first. You just have to stitch up your dart on your sewing machine for the skirt before you attach the design. Now for the design, this is the way you're going to place it. Number 3 and number 2 are going to align on the center. Number 3 and number 2 are going to align on the center, and you should use your sellotape to hold this down. You're not sewing this on a sewing machine. You're still working with paper. Use your sellotape and hold it down. 3 and 2 should align on the center. At the center, so use your sellotape and hold them down at the center. That is what I'm doing right now. So when you hold them down at the center, we'll go ahead and fix number 1. I'm trying to hold it down so it doesn't move around. And of course, this is what it's going to look like. So for number 1, we are going to be placing number 1 close to number 2. Number 1 has to be by the side of number 2. At the side seam. At the side seam, because that is where 1 and 2 aligns together. 1 and 2 aligns together at the side seam. Look at the design we are creating very well. See, fashion, pattern drafting needs brain work. It's technical. So number 1 and number 2 aligns at the side seam. Now I'm adding extra pattern paper because of course where they align is that peplum effect. So in order to fill up that gap, we added extra pattern paper. Be sure you note the center of that part where you've added extra pattern paper, starting from where you joined it to the top, all the way down. So I'll use my marker to, highlight it. And you cut off the excess. So now I'm trying to fold it in like so. When you have this now, this is where you should transfer this to fabric. At this point, this is where you should open this up and transfer it to fabric. Okay? And of course, after sewing it up on your fabric, you've turned your lining, use your iron to give it a nice shape. Also mark your notches where each one is folding over, so that as you're ironing, you're able to iron it correctly. Now you take this whole design and you put it on top of your skirt, the main skirt. I'm using my dart to check my alignment here. Remember, we closed it up. You're not sewing up that on the design. You closed it up to use it to add fullness. Oh, sorry, I omitted that part. We closed up the dart to add fullness to the hem. Please, we closed the dart to add fullness to the hem of the first one only. So the second and the third, we eliminated the dart from the side. I really don't know what happened during the filming that those parts were not there. If I lost the clip or whatever. But please, we opened up the dart to add fullness to number 1 since it is the peplum effect of it. Then 2 and 3, we eliminated the dart from the side. So now you see what I told you about number 3, that this is the part you're sewing to your side seam of the skirt. That's what I'm doing right now. So that is why your number 3 should be the same thing with the side seam of your main skirt, because that's the way you're going to attach it before you put the back on top of it to form a skirt proper. So that is what I'm doing right now. Like, this is the part that holds the design onto the skirt, and of course the waistline also. So right now, this is what we are having, and we're going to be attaching this to the upper bodice. We're going to be attaching this, of course, to the upper bodice. All right. We'll set this aside and we'll work on the upper bodies. Those designs that we traced out earlier, I'm going to be attaching them to the waistline before putting them onto the main bodice itself. So of course we are going to be sewing this onto this, and I'm going to have to attach it onto the upper bodies. So we're going to be joining the lower bodies and the upper bodies together, which is just a normal way of sewing, right side facing right side. And you're going to be joining these two together like so. And having done that, we've come to the end of this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.